Grand Rising, people. Happy Friday to ya. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I am so excited for this lineup we have today and for my super amazing guest co-host in studio with us today, Mike Davis. What up, Mike Davis?
Hey, Trey. How you doing today?
I am well, man. It's great to have you in studio this morning.
Yes, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I know we got some clips to get into. So we're going to get into it because, we like to do a lot of commentary. And with Mike here, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to try to keep us on time. But I know, this is the first me and him get to really get into it. So let's get into these headlines that we have up for y'all today. Starting up, we actually have, Owen loves baseball. He has given us a great clip right here of how Hank Aaron, one of the baseball greats, who became an actual civil rights activist. Let's get into it, all you.
Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
When I think about my life and what I went through, I would like people to think more in terms of saying, well, he was more than just a baseball player, As my oldest daughter always said, she always introduced me most times. She said, he was more than a baseball player. He was my daddy and his man, So I would think that I would want people to look at me and say, he made a contribution not only to baseball, but he made a contribution to society. He made a contribution and gave other people an opportunity. If you look at all of the things that I guess in some ways that I accomplished, forget about baseball, all the records and all that, and God knows I've heard these records time and time again, the home runs, the runs batted, but you want to skip over that, then you think about where are you now in life? If you asked me this question when I was in Mobile, or even asked me this question 10 years ago, I would never thought that I would be somewhere, my portrait would be hanging in some gallery like this. I would never think that what I accomplished in my lifetime, that I would have been able to meet people in my life that meant an awful lot to this country. Presidents, I've met, you name them, and I've been, and we've traveled just about everywhere, so I just couldn't put it in perspective, but I would just say that my life, I would want people to think that I was bigger than just baseball. And that's not being boastful or trying to anything. I just felt like, I did it, as Frank Sinatra said, and I did it the way I wanted to do it,
Wow. Rest in power. Mr. Hank Aaron dies at the age of 86. What an amazing legacy, honestly. And to be honest with you, Mike, I just think that there was no choice for so many of the greats back in the day. They had to be able to do both. You know what I mean? Their legacies alone, them blazing the trails with regard to being some of the first to deal with all of the racism, all of the hatred, and just wanting to focus on their job. But they couldn't only do that, man. They had to be on both sides of this.
Absolutely. Especially in baseball. It was tough being a Black baseball player in America. And, Hank Aaron, he played baseball. He was known for civil rights. This is a huge loss for the community, especially right now in this time. And, Major League Baseball just opened up the records to the Negro Leagues to be included. And, all the talk of Babe Ruth, and he's never played against Black players, but like this, he's the GOAT. Yeah. He is the GOAT. So yes, rest in power.
Yeah, it was really shocking actually to see one of the main images in there, the swastikas on the end of his baseball bat. I mean, when we talk about folks who lived through that time and dedicated their talent and their brilliance to something that then opened the doors for so many more, right?
Yes.
Just real trailblazer, man. So you're absolutely right, man. Shout out to Hank Aaron's family. We appreciate the legacy that Hank Aaron has left on the Black community. In his wake, there are so many more young Black men and women that are really taking up the torch. So I just give kudos to folks like that. And again, he didn't have a choice, man. He had to do the civil rights part and the baseball part.
Yes.
He didn't have no choice.
I mean, they brought that right to his doorstep. I mean, we've seen the clip with the swastikas. I mean, how do you work in that environment? How did you live through those times? It took strength and it took courage. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we we're kind of talking about this too. Like we talk about, the racism we have today, but back then, oh man, there's even comedians talking about it. Like Afion Crockett had me dying when he just was like, oh man, they was throwing bricks at your face.
Yes.
You're like, I can't take that, man. A pretty boy over here, I can't take the bricks to the face. But I just give kudos to that man. And Absolutely. So shout out again to Hank Aaron, his legacy and his family. Now we're going to bring it into the national front. Obviously, we have a lot of news we're going to be covering over time as President Biden starts to really sit into his seat of the presidency. This right here is a clip from CBS Morning talking about Joe Biden's executive orders.
What President Biden is calling a full-scale wartime effort to fight this pandemic and get the country back to normal. On his first full day in the office, the president described a desperate situation likely to get worse before it gets better, he said. But he also laid out a very ambitious agenda, including new executive actions on vaccines and the economy. Weijia Jiang is at the White House. Weijia, what's the plan? Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Gail, and good morning to everyone. Well, today, President Biden plans to sign 2 new executive orders to provide economic relief from the COVID-19 pandemic. The first one will focus on providing more financial assistance for food amid a growing hunger crisis. And the second aims to help federal workers, in part by restoring collective bargaining and worker protections that the Trump administration rescinded. The orders today will bring President Biden's total in 3 days of executive orders and actions to 29.
Help is on the way.
The first wave of help is coming through 10 executive orders that President Biden signed Thursday. He promised to do better than his predecessor, but he reminded Americans of the reality ahead.
We didn't get into this mess overnight. It's going to take months for us to turn things around.
The president invoked the Defense Production Act, compelling companies to make supplies, everything from more syringes to PPE. Part of Mr. Biden's actions aimed to increase testing and vaccinations, but he bristled when a reporter asked him if, as some experts have suggested, the promise of 100 million vaccines in 100 days is too low.
Is that high enough? Shouldn't we set the bar higher? That's basically where the U.S. is right now.
When I announced it, you all said it's not possible. Come on, give me a break, man. It's a good start. 100 million.
Back in the briefing room over 2 months after his last appearance, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who returned as President Biden's chief medical advisor.
One of the things that we're going to do is to be completely transparent, open, and honest. If things go wrong, not point fingers, but to correct them.
Fauci said he already feels the difference of working under a president who fully embraces science.
The idea that you can get up here and talk about what you know, what the evidence, what the science is, and know that's it. Let the science speak. It is somewhat of a liberating feeling.
Some state officials tell CBS News the federal government has already reached out more in the past 36 hours, including from FEMA offering to set up and staff mass vaccination sites. At the same time, the president is trying to convince Congress to pass a $1.9 trillion rescue package, including funding for those centers nationwide.
He feels that package is designed for bipartisan support.
But so far, the moderate Republicans needed to seal the deal say it's too pricey. Yesterday, Senator Susan Collins of Maine joined her colleagues, Senators Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski, in saying it's hard to imagine supporting such a big package when they just passed a $900 billion plan at the end of last year. Anthony.
We just thank you.
That right there is, I think, what's necessary, though. I mean, we see that, you know, over the last 4 years, there hasn't been enough federal oversight to this, enough federal guidance, enough federal authority to like say, look, this is how we're doing this as a nation. And, you know, even to hear, you know, Dr. Fauci say, look, it's great to have a president who's relying on science. I mean, I hope that we're really seeing a new day, Mike.
I hope that we are too. And one thing that I will say is 29 executive orders in 3 days. It's amazing what the president can get done when he's in his office and not on a golf course. So we've already changed course in a lot of ways. But one thing that jumps out to me in that clip is the idea that Republicans are calling this too expensive. I mean, it's always too expensive when it comes to something that's actually going to help the people when it's the Republican Party. But when it's like a corporate bailout, then they always can find the money. So I'm just hoping that this really is a new day and that Biden can reach across the aisle like he always speaks about, and he can actually get this done for the American people.
Yeah, I think the one thing that so many Americans are probably sick and tired of is this kind of bipartisan, like you on this side, you on this side, can't work together. I mean, the people are the ones who really suffer when that is actually the leading thought for a lot of these folks. And I think that it's important that they really think about their constituents, you know, who elected them, who put them in office. And there's so many families and people in all communities that are suffering because of COVID and this pandemic. It's important that there's a real injection of resources here.
Absolutely. And when you look at the amount of executive orders that he's done and how a lot of them are actually to repeal things that Trump did, it seems like the Republicans will be more on board to move forward since we're still focused on fixing the past. So at some point, they're going to have to start caring about the people. And if not, we're going to keep voting. And we've seen what happened in Georgia. So Republicans be on alert.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. It's definitely time for them to take heed. The nation is speaking up. People are utilizing their voices. People are utilizing their civic authority to be a part of the process. No longer can we just sit back and watch it happen. Agreed. You know, next we're going to bring it here locally. This is one of my favorite restaurants, honestly, in Tacoma. Mike and I were talking a little bit about it before, but obviously restaurants are another one of the major industries that are hit so heavily because of this pandemic. And the Southern Kitchen out in Tacoma, a great soul food restaurant. If you have not had it, I suggest that you try it. I encourage you to order from them online. But right here, King 5 sat down with the owners to understand how they're maneuvering through this pandemic.
Well, they want their businesses back open, and that's why a record number of restaurant and business owners showed up for a state Senate hearing today. King 5's Linnell Donovan spoke to a restaurant owner in Tacoma who says it's time.
Gloria Martin has been running Southern Kitchen for over 25 years. The restaurant is a staple of 6th Avenue, where she knows her customers and they know her. But thanks to COVID-19, Gloria has had to close her doors and can only serve her food to go. She says this new way of life is taking a toll on the connections she spent so much time making with her customers.
What I miss is not seeing our customers. And it's the ones that come in for takeout, for instance, and they express exactly the same thing, that it's hard coming into Southern Kitchen and not being able to sit down and just have a conversation. And I think that the restaurant is a small part of bringing our community back together again.
Many restaurant owners throughout Washington feel like Gloria.
Senate Bill 15114
and took their grievances to the state legislature to call for opening dining rooms again. Some workers' rights groups, like Working Washington, have pushed back against the call to open. Last month, the organization released a statement saying that with so much on their focus on making sure their businesses stay open, they are more likely to put us, the workers, in these risky situations. But Gloria supports reopening dining rooms safely, and as long as everyone is protected, going to a restaurant would be no different than heading anywhere else.
The issue I have is that I don't see the difference between sitting down in a safe environment, 6 feet apart, and serve food with disposable utensils. I just don't see the difference between that versus going to a mall, you know, walking around, going to the cashier, and buying things at a store.
Now, Washington's Governor Jay Inslee has said that he understands the frustrations of Gloria and many other small business owners, and that the state legislature should make it a priority to help these small businesses through this trying time. However, he also said that the measures they've taken have saved lives when it comes to COVID-19. Reporting from downtown Tacoma, Lionel Donovan, King 5 News.
Wow. I mean, there's so many people who are really share her sentiments. Honestly, at the end of the day, we really are social beings, you know what I mean? And a lot of this kind of social distancing or, being kind of isolated has affected many people. Clearly, it was affecting her there too, Mike.
Absolutely. It especially affects our people. I mean, this is our culture. We're not super transactional when we do our business. We like to talk. We like to conversate. We like to make those connections. And one thing you know about going to a soul food restaurant, you're going to have those conversations and make those connections. So I know it's probably harder on her specifically, just having to be transactional and cook the food and hand it off, because that's not who she wants to be. So I hope that we can reopen safely, just like she hopes that we can reopen safely. But I definitely feel for her, and I understand what she's going through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been seeing some restaurants opening up at like 25% capacity. Right. I think they do have to have certain measures in place. Like much of it is about the ventilation of the space, right? And so I was at Blue Water Bistro. They have 25% seating indoors, but it's because their whole wall is full of windows and they have to have the windows open, right? So they give you blankets if you get cold. They're making adjustments, but ultimately, I think you're absolutely right when you talk about, our culture in particular. And, when you think about soul food, I mean, just the name and term soul food means it's cooking from the soul, right? It comes, everybody talks about putting that love in the food and that you experience that when you're eating it. And so I agree that, this is really unfortunate. And one of the things that I will say is I'm happy that they are able to have these to-go orders, because without that, honestly, that amazing staple, like they said, right there on 6th Ave in Tacoma, would be shut down. And that would be even a greater loss to the community. So I am happy at least they're able to do that. But I understand what you're talking about. We're relational, not transactional.
Exactly. But if you happen to find yourself in Tacoma, please stop by, because their food really is good. I mean that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not dry chicken. It's good. It's seasoned well. Trust and believe that. Our next clip actually speaks to something that I think we're going to be seeing on the rise, honestly. As the vaccine kind of comes out, I'm a little bit concerned about how people are going to be abusing this. Right here, there's been a Seattle vaccine peddler who has been arrested for selling untested COVID-19 drugs days after someone he injected is hospitalized. Now, this is what, first of all, I think that this always, when I see this kind of stuff, for me, it boils down to capitalism. And I hate to say, but it's like, if you're looking to make money off of the backs of people are like, oh, that's where it's at right now. I could probably, make my little concoction, hey, I'm a doctor. I can do all of these things to make people believe and trust in me so that they'll go a different route. And also playing to the fear of people, which we see happen so many times, Mike.
Absolutely. But about this story, I have to say, if someone is selling a vaccine on their Facebook page, you might not want to take it. I couldn't believe that someone actually seen an ad on Facebook for a homemade COVID vaccine and they took it. And this guy has made other vaccines. He was out here trying to cure cancer. Y'all got to be careful and stop letting so much social media into your brains. It is toxic. It's toxic.
Hey, you are so right, man. At the end of the day, y'all, you got to do your research. And I do think that, this also speaks to the lack of that kind of federal authority, because people were scrambling for answers, trying to figure it out on their own. All of the states were basically left to their own devices to figure out how to run their states, how to make sure their counties were still moving, how to make sure things were still flowing. And this is where you have people that are like, man, I'm not getting the answers from, okay, I got to figure it out myself. And that's the unfortunate part. I'm really hoping that what we were just talking about with President Biden taking a real lead, taking a real stance on, hey, this is how we're going to deal with this as a nation, will help to dispel a lot of the people's fears out there, because that fear is what has people reaching for solutions on their own.
Absolutely.
And you're right, man. Come on, man. It's simple, man. Do not be listening to no social media and going off of that. That's dangerous.
But I think your larger point is right on the money. And Joe Biden said 100 million vaccines in 100 days. So hopefully folks won't feel like they have to get their shots from someone on Facebook. They can actually go to an actual clinic or a doctor's office and get a credible shot. So I'm looking forward to Biden actually helping states mandate this and actually get it to the people that need it. I feel like the Trump administration faltered in that, and we saw reports of vaccines just sitting in hospitals going bad because there was no distribution plan. So hopefully we can release these funds so that states have the infrastructure that they need to get the vaccine to the people that need them.
Absolutely. And, you know, you're just 100% correct on that. That is really where I think a lot of the nation is really watching and paying attention to how this new president, a new administration is going to really turn things around for us, because we definitely need it. And I know a lot of other countries are doing this as well in their own right. So I think a lot of Americans out there can maybe breathe a little bit more of a sigh of relief in this regard. Mike, you know, you're a journalist, my friend. You brought some clips of your own today to share with us. Mike, take it away.
Sure. Well, the first clip of my own is my own. So after the inauguration, Biden gave his speech. I wrote my initial reactions, and it appeared in the South Seattle Emerald. I believe we have an overlay. Okay. Well, it's not much there, Trey, but so I will have to say I wrote my initial reaction before any of those executive orders came through. So I was speaking more to Biden's speech and how he was pushing unity, and, you know, and we seen what the other side just did. So I just wasn't ready to hear that unity argument. He also cited the Emancipation Proclamation and talked about legacy and what he wanted his legacy to be. And that's hard for me because I feel like right now his legacy is the 1994 crime bill. And if he wants to change his legacy, then we're going to need actual legislation. We need to close this wealth gap. We need to close the education gap. We need to end mass incarceration. Those are the types of things that we need if Joe Biden wants to change his legacy. But all that being said, I'm happy with the executive orders. I think that he has done a lot of good. He's off to a really good start, and I didn't expect it. And if you read the article, you'll see I didn't expect that, but I would definitely give credit where credit is due.
You know what? I think that before we understood how strong he was going to come out the gate, your sentiments are 100% on point. I mean, you know, there's a lot that has negatively affected so many communities from the global majority that ultimately the perspective actually goes through our lived experience, right? And when we have our lived experiences, when we have a rise in disparities that are wrecking our communities, when we see our businesses being the top ones affected by this pandemic, having to shut down, when we see how hard, even they were talking about, coronavirus is, you know, affecting Black and Latino communities at a larger rate. And there was nothing being done to dispel all of that. There was nothing being done to prioritize Black and Brown communities in that regard. Obviously, your sentiments before we saw this kind of strong action out the gate is very much warranted, Mike. So, hey, I'm glad that you can give credit where credit is due. But if he didn't do that, all of your sentiments would have been on point 100%. If you guys haven't checked out the article, you guys can find that on SouthSeattleEmerald.com.
Yes, and Joe Biden, we're not done here. So we're going to see how we continue because there's still so much more work to do. So great start, but we got an eye on you.
That's right.
So the next article I have here came from the Seattle Times, and it turns out that the King County Sheriff's Office was fined in September for their failure to respond to protests and large demonstrations. And not just their failure to do so, but their failure to adequately train their officers to do so. And in this article from the Seattle Times, they actually say that it's a, quote, Seattle problem. in that until they have more funds, they're not going to address it. So they paid the fines and they just came out and said they're not going to do anything. I mean, how does that sit with you, Trey?
Oh my word. Okay, first of all, let me just say this is where when we talk about our state being so liberal, when we talk about this all the time, you know, it really is like, I'll bring it back to the lived experience, Mike, because those who are really in these communities, they actually experience something very different. They experience this. That is so dismissive. We saw how uninformed all of those police officers were with regard to large scale tactics, how to maneuver in these large scale protest movements. They did a lot of foul actions. And this, no matter what, Seattle sits in King County, no matter what. So it can't just be a Seattle problem. If you are King County Sheriff's Office, you need to be focusing on all of the cities in your county. So that just feels really dismissive. And honestly, I go back to, okay, how did they pay those fines? Where does that money come from? It goes back to that. We always talk about it on this platform right here about following the money. And this is one of those things where it's like, does that fall on us in any regard, on taxpayers? Because that's really not the answer that people are looking for in this regard. People are wanting to see the leadership here because we saw the lack of it during the protest movement, Mike.
No, absolutely. And after everything that's happened over the last summer leading into now, how can the King County Sheriff's Department really step out and say that they need more money? Like, that's your ask? Like, after the fines, after everything that you've seen, your response is give us more money or else we're just going to ignore this Seattle problem? It's ridiculous to me.
No, it's even, so much to be said about it because it's like preposterously ridiculous, right?
Yes.
Where it's like at a large scale. This is where I say that Mike is so right, not just about Joe Biden and us having our eyes on him, but to be honest, we're not done. We got our eyes on all of this stuff. The movement in and of itself is about the people seeing real gains. When the people see actions like this taking place, it's clear that our voices still need to be heard out there. It's clear that the understanding that they have with regard to the collective people power needs to be pushed even more. Because how can you just dismiss all of that? And how can you dismiss the fact that they were doing ill tactics? I mean, they're not supposed to be throwing flashbangs the way they were. They're not supposed to be utilizing the tools the way that they were. There's actual real training that needs to happen. And you guys need to figure it out at the end of the day because the people are the ones that suffer. So I agree with you there. I'm glad you put that one in there, Mike. We need to be informed on these kind of things because I think a lot of the time in communities, we may just assume that the right things are kind of happening. Now we know it doesn't happen without our voices being heard and without our voices being risen all the way to the top.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Trey. And shout out to everybody who has had boots on the ground, out here marching, out here protesting. It's still going on right now. Y'all have done so much, but there's still so much work to be done, as you can see here. So we are going to keep it moving. Amazon trying to jump in the vaccine game. You know, they're looking for a little bit of good publicity here. They're going to team up with Virginia Mason on Sunday at their 7th Avenue office. They are going to vaccinate 2,000 people that were on Virginia Mason's waiting list. So does this forgive Amazon for everything that they've done up until now? I mean, they're vaccinating people, so they're a good company, right?
Mike,
that's not how that works.
Somebody in their PR said, trust me, guys, this will be great for us. We got to do this. Hey, anything we can do to show the people of Seattle that we care, we got to do this. I mean, all right. Come on now. This is what I talk about when we talk about that low-hanging fruit. It's so easy to pick the fruit that's hanging at the bottom. And if you can do a collaboration like this, maybe, you know, showcase that this is how we care for our community. We are utilizing our spaces for this kind of pop-up. To be honest, they have so much more to atone for, you know, and ultimately it is a great thing, you know, that there could be 2,000 folks relieved of being on this waiting list for the vaccine. But in no way does this take away all of the other things Amazon has done to wreck this city. And I will be the first to admit, I still shop on Amazon because it's horrible. But also I'm a mom and I be working and my son says he needs something quickly. So don't fault me for that, y'all. But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about how they've wrecked the city. When we think about how skyrocketing the prices have become with regard to our housing, we know that the tech sector is one of the main drivers of this. It wasn't happening just because we had amazing jobs at Boeing. It wasn't happening because we had amazing jobs in other sectors. But when it came to this tech sector, we got Microsoft and Amazon. When it came to that, unfortunately, it really caused huge damage in our communities. And so, no, them vaccinating 2,000 people is great. And shout out to those families who've been on the waiting list. Shout out to those community members on Virginia Mason's waiting list. But no, they still have so much more work to do, Mike.
No, I agree with you, Trey. And yes, vaccinating 2,000 people is good, but paying your taxes would be even better. I mean, if you really want good publicity, how about you pump some of those funds back into the community? I also read a different report that said that Amazon wanted their workers to jump the vaccination line, which would have been good if they don't treat those same workers like they are in sweatshops. So Amazon, you have a hell of a lot more work to do than to just give us 2,000 vaccines and think that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, I got to go into break with this sentiment right here, because ultimately, as we just said, you see, me and Mike Davis ain't playing no games today. All right, we're going to go from President Biden on down. Trust me, there is still work to do. And all those who have been part of the movement, your voice is needed all the time. It does not stop. One little bit of protesting during the summer, keeping it kind of going. Ultimately, stay strong in the fact that your voices, your actions, you coming out in the streets, you collectivizing, all of that is what's going to really bring us the wins that we need to see. We can no longer actually wait on these people to get it right. They have to hear the voices of all of us to understand where we're coming from and what we really need in our communities. So thank you for that one, Mike. You guys, this was great. I'm already enjoying Mike's presence on set. We're going to actually take a quick break right now. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us. Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media. Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and joining me today, you guys know him from Clapback Culture and South Seattle Emerald, Mr. Mike Davis.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Well, you know what? This segment is all about bringing in our super producer, Nikki Barron, for the coronavirus update. Hey, Nikki.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy it's Friday. It's been a long week for me.
Oh, man. Trust me. I think for so many of us, Nikki, but we love to keep our audience informed on these numbers. Let's dig in.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. So another 2,223 coronavirus cases and 125 deaths have been reported in Washington state, bringing the total number of diagnoses to 296,087, including a grand total of 4,065 deaths for the state. We're at 16,939 hospitalizations so far in the state of Washington, and we are seeing a data processing backlog, so we might see high spikes in the data over the next couple of days. Nationally, we have just hit 24.6 million cases, and we're up 190,000 cases since yesterday. And we lost 4,142 additional lives across the U.S., bringing us to 410,000 people lost in the United States alone. So it's not looking super great for us. Locally, I think, it's been a long week. Did I give us our hospital capacity numbers? I didn't. Okay. I was like, oh, I did. Did I say that? All right. So we are at 83.2% for our hospital ICU inventory. We're trying to keep that below 80% so that we have enough beds for everybody who needs them. And our positivity rate is at 10%, which is much better than we were faring the last 14 days or so. We were kind of getting up in that 17%. And for this, we want to keep this under 4% for King County is their goal, and 2% for this state of Washington. So we've got a really long way to go. So keep up the good work, Washington. We are getting this holiday burst in cases under control, but we got to continue to mask up, social distance, wash our hands. So that is your coronavirus update.
Wow. Thank you.
Sorry, I was a little all over the place today. I'm like, it's felt like Friday since Wednesday.
Hey, we understand it. It has been a long week for so many of us. We appreciate you so much. Let's remind our audience of where they can find this information.
Yeah, so just head over to whereweconverge.com and go to our COVID-19 resources tab. That's where you're going to find our twice a week show, Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:15. Amari and I host a show giving you the latest headlines, interviewing experts in the state, as well as bringing you resources for people who are struggling. You can also find links to all of these dashboards that I use to get this information. So yeah, there you go, whereweconverge.com, COVID-19 resources tab.
Nikki, thank you so much. We appreciate being informed, and making sure our audience is informed is super important. I hope you are able to enjoy the rest of your Friday. I know you be working like crazy. Please enjoy your weekend, Nikki. You've earned it.
I definitely will. You too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Nikki.
Bye. Oh, man. I mean, honestly, keeping us informed on those numbers is super important, but it's so crazy because the numbers just seem like no matter what, they're just increasing. It doesn't, like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing good, but cases just keep coming in, Mike.
Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the numbers for that exact reason. It's like, this is Feel Good Friday. That did not make me feel good.
I know. I mean, that's why I'm telling you, we were gonna take a break, but we're gonna go right to Miss Besa Gordon so we can get the energy up every time after the coronavirus numbers. It is important. Let's bring in Besa, Miss Alia. Muted again. That's okay. Why do we still hear you, even though you're unmuted? Hold on.
Oh, I think that was my fault. I clicked my mic.
There you go. Oh, well, I'm excited. I get to see you 2 days in a row, Miss Besa.
Yes, and you look so good.
Oh, thank you. You too. Let's get it. Like, how are you on this Friday, huh?
No tea, no shade. This has been a long week. If anyone knows about chakras, I've been working on my solar plexus, and that is very draining in itself because you have to go within yourself to figure a whole bunch of things out and why some things are jacked up. So, I really wanted to keep it light today. I mean, it's the truth. First of all, you didn't sprinkle me, so hi.
Hey, you already know. We got to do that every time. We're going to need to get a little like chime or something for our sprinkle. Like, ooh, ring, 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 ring. You know what I'm saying? We have to work on that.
Yeah, like one of those Wendy Williams filters. I'm here for it. So in terms of something positive, I really want to share a few things that I've been watching on Netflix to kind of keep my mind clear, if you know what I'm saying. So one thing is a show called Black Mirror. I want to say Black Mirror is about 5 seasons, and although it could be a little trippy, I will warn you, it might kind of have you feeling like, damn, this is going to be life in about 15 years. But It's really good because one, it's kind of giving you a warning of what's to come, but two, it shows you like the bad sides of technology to where it's like, dang, we love technology, but this is really what could be our lives if we keep going this way. So that's something I've really been enjoying. I want to say I'm on episode like 4. After that, I've been watching Bridgerton, which is really popular. Some people don't know, but this is actually I want to say produced by Shonda Rhimes, which is probably why it's so good. Like, obviously, it's based off of a book. There's like 8 books, but you know, that little Shonda Rhimes touch in there just kind of made it to where it's 8 episodes. I ended up watching it twice. So if you guys need something good to watch, definitely check out Bridgerton. If you like Orange is the New Black, there is a show called Wentworth. Now, Orange is the New Black was cute, but if you watch Wentworth, it's like that next level of like lockdown, but it's really spicy. Like, don't get me wrong, you might have to take a couple breaks, but it definitely will get your mind off of what's going on because it's their drama and not yours. I'm just saying. And then second to last, we have Social Dilemma. So if you're wondering why social media is so addictive, this will basically tell you every single thing. And you'll learn that it was created this way. Like, there's literally bots to be like, oh my goodness, this person isn't... Say I stopped liking Trey's post. It'll be like, she's not liking Trey's post anymore. What's going on? We're going to push this up to see what happens. Okay, she doesn't like that anymore. Oh, she's liking these things. She's clicking on these things. So let's move this around, and it kind of makes it to where that's how you get that perfect algorithm to where you kind of sometimes feel like, damn, I just thought about this and it's popping up on your phone. Well, they're just really learning your mindset. So that's a little creepy, but it's still kind of dope. Lastly, there's 7 Seconds. I actually really like this because it reminds me of a lighter version of How to Get Away with Murder, and it actually has a really good ending.
Oh, wow, Besa. You know what? I mean, the one thing I can say for sure is that lots of people are trying to figure out a way to escape from this reality. It is true. And I mean, you know, whether that means that Netflix is getting more views or whatever, ultimately, thank you for sharing some ways that people can find something entertaining during all this time. I don't know about you, Mike, but you know, sometimes you just want to shut the brain off.
Yes. And those are great picks. So thanks, Besa. Those are really good.
You are welcome.
Yeah, I will say, so for me, I watched some episodes of Black Mirror. I think I got to episode 3. Definitely, my little sister hit me to it. And honestly, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. So some of the other ones, and then I think I watched like maybe a little bit of Bridgerton. My friends were getting on it, but my schedule got so busy. But thank you for some suggestions, because sometimes it's actually hard to weed through all of the options.
So much.
Yeah, it's so much. And to figure out, well, okay, well, what am I going to do? I don't know about you guys, but I saw this meme yesterday, and it just makes me think of what you just did, Besa, where the person was like, you know, that time when you're trying to like find something to watch before you eat your food, but you look down and you're like, all your food is gone before you can even find something good to watch, because there's too many options out there.
Me. That's me all day.
Exactly. Way too many options. So I watched all the bad ones, so you guys don't have to.
We appreciate you, Besa. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, love.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, man, that was refreshing, honestly. Bringing the energy right back up to where we needed to go. Oh, my gosh. You guys, we're going to take another short break. You guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us. Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media. Welcome back, y'all, to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I've just been having such a great time with my guest co-host this morning. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss Omari so much. I still miss you. Oh, I still definitely miss you. But Mike, you are holding it down today.
Yeah, O's chair is feeling a little comfortable, man, you know. So, you ain't here? Okay, man.
Mike's like, don't worry. He's ready to step in and step it up. And so I appreciate you. Appreciate your energy this morning. You guys, our producer, Nikki Barron, stays working. Y'all know this. Up next is an interview that Nikki did with Wellspring because they actually partnered with some others to actually bring about this hospitality grant that we spoke about last week.
Welcome to the Morning Update Show. Nawishtamai Naikan.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your organization, Wellspring.
Wellspring, it has like a accoutrement of services. We come from like whether EAP, we have the Early Learning Center, we have 16 different housing programs that serve 3 counties. We're building systems that will support not just housing people, not just helping kiddos who need to get into the Early Learning Center or even families who need items from the baby boutique, but it's also figuring out how as a community we can come together collectively to support families and end homelessness, because that's our mission, is to end the cycle of homelessness, the family homelessness.
So you recently partnered with the city of Seattle to launch a grant for hospitality workers. Can you tell me a little bit about that partnership and what that grant entails?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are actually, it came from doing some chef fund work, which was hospitality workers. And it started back in 2020 when COVID really hit and affected a lot of people who were working in the hospitality industry. So the city reached out to us and asked us, you know, what we thought about how we can be helping not just improvement, but also supporting the community who's been either losing hours or even lost their job because of COVID. So just reaching out to them and having that transparent conversation about vulnerability, about aspects of like why this is so important and how do we capture this. I think the most important part for me was trying to capture the data, because we have a trend that, you know, historically it's going to be in history, because you're going to see trends of homelessness that are different. And the trends we're seeing this year, you know, are terrifying, because there's domestic violence trends. There's trends of children who are experiencing abuse at home at a higher rate, because there's not those extra support systems that where they can go to schools or, you know, so the impacts of everything has been there, and just trying to capture that also in a culturally relevant way and making sure our application process are readily available for those who speak other languages.
So if you're a hospitality worker, how can you go and sign up for the grant, and what does that granting process look like?
Yeah, so you go to Wellspring Family Services website and it's right there. You can click on it and it'll take you to the application in English or Spanish. We also got, we're uploading other languages as well, such as Chinese, Vietnamese, Amharic, and making sure that we have that so people are able to go through it very easily. We opened it last week and we've already had over 7,000 applications that's come through. So the application for it is you just have to be a City of Seattle resident, and you had to be working within the City of Seattle as well.
So what is the last day that people can apply?
So we're extending the deadline to February 15th. Before it was 3 weeks from when we started it, which was last week. We started it last Monday, but we're actually extending it to February 15th because we changed the application forms to be in more languages to better support our outreach purposes, because we did do a lot of FAQs and outreach to make sure that it's in many languages, and we want to make sure our application process is as well.
And what kind of information can somebody expect when they apply that they need to provide?
Mm-hmm. Just the verification, the self-declaration that they are a City of Seattle resident, that they've worked in the City of Seattle. Also that if COVID was a hardship and they lost hours or they lost employment due to COVID, and just having that information of where they were employed at.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for putting this grant together. I know a lot of hospitality workers that this is going to help. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome information to give to our audience and give out there to the community. You guys heard it there. Clearly, that we even had their website right there on the screen. But for you hospitality workers that, you fit those criteria, please reach out. I think it's so important that there's direct funds available to specific sectors of industry. And this is one, it's definitely needed. We see them being essential workers on the front lines, Mike.
Absolutely. And I was happy to hear that the deadline was extended. So that gives you even more time. So I'm glad that we can have that on the platform and get that information to the people.
Absolutely. Great work, Nikki, as always. Nikki also couldn't let us down on this Friday. Y'all know what that means. That means we have a Food Fri-Yay clip in the works for y'all. Nikki has made it happen. And this Food Fri-Yay today goes to Frelard Tamales. Take it away, Alia.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Food Fri-Yay. I am here with Osvaldo from Frelard Tamales. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about Frelard Tamales.
We got started at the farmers market over in Fremont, the Fremont market on Sundays. And after that, we started adding more rotating summer festivals. We started attending other weekend markets, the South Lake Union market. And that's kind of how we got started. We were my husband and I were hoping to just do this on the weekends and to be a side gig. But it quickly became obvious that people were hungry for tamales, that there was a lack of tamales over in the north side of the city. So then we just started doing more regular pop-ups throughout the city, breweries on top of our weekend markets. And then to the point that we were outgrowing our commissary kitchens and just needed a space. So we looked for a spot, and now we're in Green Lake. And Frelard just operates as a to-go model. Even before COVID, we were just to go. People walked up to our little have window that people just ordered from and picked from the menu, and our staff are ready to go. Our tamales are steaming all the time, and you can also pick frozen ones too. But that's where we've been for 2 years now, since 2018, and going for 3 this May.
So if I've never been to Frelard Tamales, what's one thing I should eat and one thing I should drink from the menu?
We specialize in tamales. We have added a few things to our menu that are not tamales, like our sides of vegan rice and beans and our guacamole. And like you mentioned, the drinks, we have aguas frescas. And but very recently we added our queso fundido, which just came out yesterday. Which we're very excited about. But one thing you should definitely get from the menu is my personal favorite, and actually everyone's favorite in terms of the most sold tamale, is the chicken tamale. And you should accompany it with the green salsa and the crema. And then don't forget the pickled veggies. If you're like my husband who doesn't like pickles, skip them, obviously, but they're really good. And for a drink, you should do the horchata agua fresca, which we always have. And all of the items I've listed are made in-house. Obviously, our tamales are handmade, and then our salsas are house-made. But also our horchata is made from scratch. We use Mexican vanilla extract, and we don't use any powder or we don't cut any corners. So definitely it's a good combo to get a tamale with your salsas and your agua fresca horchata.
I'm from Texas, so I'm used to having tamales around all the time. And something different I noticed about yours is they're huge. Like one tamale is a meal, and I'm normally eating like 4 tamales for a meal, but like one of those is really big.
Yeah, well, actually, I taught high school in Texas, in South Texas.
Oh,
and
great.
I remember walking up to Dalia's Tamales over in South Texas, and they're very thin, right? They're like thinner than like the size of your finger. And I remember I literally, could eat 4, and that was like a just normal meal. But our tamales are half a pound on average. They're pretty big and chunky. So usually we say 2 per adult and 1 for a child, but sometimes 2 can be, especially with all the sides, it can be a little too much, but just depends how hungry you are.
Yeah. So what's the best way for somebody to place an order and support you during the pandemic?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we pivoted because we lost our selling points, our markets, our summer festivals. They were close to over 50% of our annual sales. And instead of laying our staff off that were doing those markets, pop-ups at the breweries and summer festivals, we decided to keep them and pivot to do deliveries. So now we do our own in-house deliveries, utilizing our own staff. That allows them to keep, maintain employment, but also reach people, because we're doing deliveries to almost every city that's touching Lake Washington, all the way from Renton to Bothell and Linwood to now Woodinville, Redmond and Kirkland, and Bellevue, and obviously Seattle Shoreline. But one of the ways that you can support our shop, obviously, if you're in the area and you're able to get to us, if you have a car or you're taking the bus, come up and show up to the window. If not, if you're outside of Seattle or you just are immunocompromised and don't want to come out to limit your exposure, let us do a contactless delivery. Visit our website. Our website is very easy to use. It's just freelardtamales.com, and you follow the buttons, whether you want to do for pickup or you want a delivery. It's really easy. And one great thing I want to do a shout out for is the fact that we've been partnering with other small businesses to do what we call gift sets. So right now we're doing a Valentine's Day gift set. We're partnering, it includes flowers, Basque burnt cheesecakes, bath and body products, which is, interesting for being a food eatery. And then coffee from Boom Bona over in Renton. And we try to partner with small businesses that are minority and women owned. So those are one of the ways that we are pivoting to reach more customers, but also at the same time giving the stage an opportunity for other businesses to reach more customers as well. So yeah, visit the site and you can learn more about all of that.
Well, thank you so much. I love the tamales. I think your Valentine's Day package sounds really awesome. So everybody out there, if you're looking for something special for your holiday, make sure you hit freelardtamales.com. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Nikki.
Oh man, see that right there. All we could do the whole time that was playing, y'all, was talk about food. We're like, what are we going to eat for lunch? What are we going to have? What places are open? I mean, it really is. I love Food Fri-Yay because it's great to know what's open, Mike.
And we need to know. And those tamales was looking good. Now my stomach hurts. So we're going to have to push through because it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime.
Thanks, Nikki.
Absolutely. We appreciate those Food Fri-Yay segments, man. And we got one more. We got always going to end our show, especially on Fridays, with some amazing positivity. Take it away, Mike.
Yes. Well, it is Feel Good Friday. So we have one more story. Do we have an overlay? Yes. So Delonte West, he played in the NBA, most famously for being on the Cavs with LeBron James. He hit hard times, like hard times. Like he was unhoused. He was suffering from mental illness. There were pictures circulating on the internet of him like standing on street corners with signs asking for donations. So he was down, he was out. And then Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban linked up with Delonte's mom. They tracked him down. They got him into a rehab facility. He got clean. And now he works at the facility helping others. So it's just a great story. It's a great comeback story. And in the end, he's in position to give back to those like him.
Oh my gosh, give me the chills with our Feel Good Friday stories. And particularly, the way that our lens is, we love to focus on Black brilliance. Yes. I love how we start the show with Hank Aaron and his legacy. We end the show with Delonte West picking up a torch, taking it and moving things forward for those who really are suffering in similar conditions that he had. I think it's important that when you do suffer hard times, that you find a way to get back up again. So shout out to you, Delonte West, and shout out honestly to Mark Cuban and Delonte West's mother, because it always takes a village. We say that often, but that's what that village mentality looks like.
Yes, that's a mother's love right there. That's a mother's love.
I love it. And with that, we're going to stand up and do this the right way. We're going to make sure we look at our why. Kara, Mike, you have done a great job today. We so appreciate you guys for supporting us. Please, if you guys are enjoying what you guys are getting right here on the Morning Update Show, share this show with a friend. Share Converge Media with your neighbors. It's important that we really have community-rooted news coming to y'all every day. Mike, any last words?
Make a donation where we converge. Please support us so that we can continue to support you.
Absolutely. And I just say, y'all, have a great weekend. This has been a long week for all of us. There was a lot of stuff on the frazzle with the inauguration. Yes. Honestly, we can take a little bit of a sigh of relief right now. And I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And for the morning update show until Monday at 11 a.m. Peace.
Happy Friday, y'all.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.